afternoon again. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hello, good afternoon and welcome, or whatever you would say. I am at probably a very unknown place. I've known it for nearly 50 years because I used to play here. This is Martlesham Heath, also known as RAE Martlesham Heath or RAF Martlesham Heath. It's now a SSSI. It's proper heathland, and it's lovely. And if I flip you round, you can see we've got gorse and silver birch, and there's heather, and it's proper old school Suffolk. And as I say, I used to play here as a child when I visited my grandparents, but now it's very much, if you look at, if I showed you over my left shoulder, you see a massive housing estate. There is a bit of the old Air Force base left, and that's where I'm having a poke round today. So we'll make this a short one, and I'll see what I can capture and show you later. And welcome to Old Felixstowe. This is Suffolk, and if I just take you off my face, you can see the sea. Take you this way, you can see the, oh hello, that's the flood defences, and that's what I'm out here to look at today. Back on my face, back on my face. The thing that really struck me about being in Felixstowe was, one, I haven't been there for I don't know how many years, decades, that bit anyway, but also that shot, or shall I say this shot, of the defences has been photographed by countless photographers. In fact, while I stood there, two guys came up and they were going to photograph it later, and so they were going to go down to Landguard Fort and do some other shots. But when you're in a location like that, how do you get a new perspective, a new image? Because I didn't want to do what everyone else has done. You can see the curves of this image, lovely, that you've got this Y shape that kind of gives you something different to what you might usually see. And there's a sister one kind of just around the corner, but it still doesn't answer the question of how do you get a new perspective on it. And that's really what I started to think about. Now, I was in a fortunate position of just having a few hours, so I got there about an hour before high tide, and I could just watch the sea come in. I got a few early shots where all you can really see is these kind of Y-shaped kind of clusters of seaweed just under the surface, and kind of subtly interacting with kind of the waves. But I was able to watch as they come out, and start to pick a time. And while I was sat there watching the tide at this point going out, I started to think, actually, although I was up on the walkway, you know, I went to climb on the rocks, don't climb on the rocks, people, you might fall to your death. Or just sprain your ankle or graze your hand. But while I was up on the walkway, I was looking at, actually, I think I need to be closer. I think the only way to do something different is to be intimate. You've got some fairly brutal concrete structures there. So how do you get intimate with concrete? I don't know. Let's not go there. Mafia might know. So I started to zoom in on the structures to try and see if I could pick something out. I was just shooting with my Olympus 12-100, so not a massive kind of focal length, but you know, long enough. And I got myself down to the water's edge and started to try and pick out shapes. And the first shapes that really came to mind were where the two different rows intersected. You get like this kind of, it's the shape of a number 7 almost. And so I was trying to see if that worked, and I had a couple of goes, and this image shows, I mean, there's something there, but not something that I was happy I could make work. So my next attempt was completely different. I took the lens right into about 90mm and just picked out 2 or 3 and just looked for the detail, and then looked for the colour of the seaweed, looked how the waves at this point were just dropping ever so slightly, and if I look at them on my screen, I can kind of see that you can start to see the top of the shape is starting to appear above the waves. So there's something there I can work with. So I'm still playing around trying to get the right sort of shape, the right sort of story into the image. Then as the waves really started to drop, so you can see the crown, if you like, of the defences, I just went all out. I went 100mm, let's see what we can do, and I picked out this shape where we had started to get the intersection of the two different shapes, and you could really start to see the colours of the seaweed coming out, and the different growths that have kind of taken to these shapes, and I was able to smooth the water. This is how long have I done this for? So this is 25 seconds, so it's fairly long, but I wanted that nice long, just to make the water just there. So the water is not the story is the seaweed, it's the shapes, and the water is just an enabler to it. Now I should say that when I started taking these photos, I was on about 8 seconds, maybe somewhere between 4 and 8 seconds, because the difference was the tide was much higher, and if you watch to the end, the gallery, you'll see that I got a series of shots where you could actually see the tide dropping over a number of minutes. So a shorter shutter speed was much more beneficial in kind of getting that misty effect of the waves having broken over the shape, and just being able to capture a tiny amount of motion. Whereas now, with the tide a lot lower, as I say, I'm trying to abstract the water out, not make the water a feature, it's just an enabler. And where it's actually settled in the end, and this is possibly one of my favourite shots I've taken. If you're going to ask me why Justin, one, I think the way that it leads you through the image. I've managed to get rid of the ones going off to the left, so we just got the ones that are following the curve of the actual defences. I've got 25 seconds at 70mm, so I've got lots of them in. None of them are cluttering each other. I've just got the right height of the image, but also the colours. The colours remind me almost of the spectrum of a colour palette. We're kind of going through greens and yellows and oranges and reds and browns as you move from the front to the back, and I think that's really interesting. So as I say, I'm really pleased with this. I think it's a nice image. Would I print and put it on a wall? Yes. I just need to get some A3 paper. That's a very good point. I need to do that. So yeah, that was Cobbold Point. And I want to talk you through these images because I think it is the story of how you find a new image, how you not a new image, how you find a new composition in a known image. I think most photographers who've visited East Anglia are really familiar with Pinmill. Now, Pinmill is on the River Orwell. It's just on the eastern side of the River Orwell Bridge, down by the actual estuary. There are lots of wrecked boats there that people like to take photos of, and create fine art images, and very good, lovely. I think the last time I went to Pinmill, I probably went to the pub. I certainly didn't have a camera with me. And I like finding new things. And what I found when I was walking from Ramsholt to the Rocks, as it's called, was this barge that's being done up. It's loosely say moored, but it was just there on its side, looking somewhat forlorn. But I thought, actually, that was more interesting than the barge just sat in the estuary. And I thought there was some shots to be had here. So I kind of set about just trying to scout it out. Which basically involved walking up and down the beach, scaring the symbols of crap out of a kingfisher, which I didn't get a photo of because that would be much cooler. But yeah. So I'm trying to, with this footage, find the right angle for the hull. If you look, you can see there's obviously a barrel on the deck. There's lots of clutter, so I wanted to show a little bit of that. I wanted to try and get some separation from the trees on the bank. But the thing that I kind of spotted was actually there was these curved leading lines coming out from the boat. Due to the ropes. So a lot of my scouting was actually trying to work out the position whereby, as the tide was coming in, I could get a shot that just showed the water against the boat, but also allowed me to use the ropes, mooring ropes, in a way that was constructive. The head-on shot that I put up 20 seconds ago, but I actually like this one better. I think the rope going out of the corner just makes the shot. You've got a diagonal basically going right through the rope, through the hull, up the mast, one corner to the diagonally opposite corner. The clouds, a little bit of motion in the clouds, but the three ropes, not trying to show too much of the deck, but accepting it's a boat that is undergoing maintenance. I'm not going to try and hide that, and it's just kind of the waves are just starting to lap against it. I think that's a nice composition, and again, it's tight. I think the boats I got at Fishnish I prefer, but there's not a lot in it, if truth be told. Watching this for getting this far, another one of my rambling, slightly crap. Alright, not crap. But no, not but. That's kind of goat-like. I'm not a goat. Another one of my vlogs. We'll just go with another one of my vlogs. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really do love being down on the Suffolk coast, and if I could spend more time there, I certainly would. Getting over there is the biggest issue from one side of the country to the other. I've tried to limit the amount of photos I put into this vlog because I tend to just drop lots. So I've tried to limit it a little bit, but what I have done is I've stuck a gallery that will appear after me. So thank you for watching. If you've watched my interview with Gary Norman, thank you. I'll put a link up here to it. Top bloke, really, so nice, and take his time to actually give me a little boost. Do go and watch that if you like the ramblings of a nearly 50-year-old bald bloke. I mean, much more than my kids do, let's be perfectly honest. Right, catch you next time. Cheers.